Always fun seeing a first-time winner in the NASCAR Cup Series, especially when it's with one of the most iconic teams in the sport. Hey there, race fans. It's Race Day Top 5 with me, Frank 5. Las Vegas Motor Speedway. It's fast, it's wide, anybody can run anywhere around the track, bottom, middle, high groove, and we see entertaining restarts whenever we come to this track. And this weekend, in the first traditional mile-and-a-half race of the season, it put on quite a show with a lot of comers and goers, a lot of attrition throughout the race, but at the end of the day, it was a Ford winning for the first time this year with a first-time winner with one of the most iconic teams in NASCAR. Let's get into all that went down in Vegas. Number 1, Berry gets the job done. Josh Berry is a first-time NASCAR Cup Series winner, as this weekend he scored his first career Cup win, winning the Pennzoil 400 at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, holding off Daniel Suarez, Ryan Preece, William Byron, and Ross Chastain for the victory. What a journey it has been for Josh Berry to get to this point. He started out racing by running in the late models, being discovered by, of course, none other than Dale Earnhardt Jr. And Jr. saw the talent that this young man had, winning weekly late model races and kicking everybody else's butt in the competition. And Junior saw that potential in Josh Berry and asked him if he wanted to come drive for him in the NASCAR series. Berry got the opportunity of a lifetime to drive a couple races in 2018, 2019, 2020, and then in 2021 got a big break when he was announced as a part-time driver for Junior Motorsports in the NASCAR Xfinity Series to run a few races and get his feet wet within the sport of NASCAR. And he scored his first ever NASCAR Xfinity Series win at Martinsville, a track where he'd been so dominant at running the late model series all those years. And then he got a bigger opportunity later in the year when he was asked to relief drive for one of Junior Motorsports drivers, Michael Annett, and he won at Las Vegas in that year in 2021. And then more opportunities continue to rose for him, especially in 2023 when Chase Elliott had to miss a couple races due to a broken leg suffered during the weekend at Las Vegas in 2023. Josh Berry was asked to drive for him because he was a member of the Junior Motorsports family and they have a strong relationship with Hendrick. Berry had a couple races that he filled in for Chase Elliott, showed some potential in those races, especially that second place finish he had to Kyle Larson in Richmond. And then while competing more throughout the rest of the year in the Xfinity Series, he has asked to relief drive for Alex Bowman towards the end of May because Bowman suffered a back injury while running a sprint car race. Berry got that opportunity to drive the 48 for a few races until Bowman was cleared and came back. Berry has been waiting for an opportunity for the last couple years to get into the Cup Series and then got the chance in 2024 when he was announced to drive for Stewart-Haas Racing. The first year and only year with the team was met with mixed results, but of course he was getting some track time with the next-gen car on a weekly basis to try to get more and more familiar with the Cup cars. When Stewart-Haas Racing announced that they were shutting down at the end of the 2024 campaign, Josh Berry was left looking for a ride. But that's when the Wood brothers jumped up and asked him, would you come and drive for us, as they were going to be moving on from Harrison Burton. And despite Harrison Burton winning that race at Daytona last year, they knew that Josh Berry could be the man to get them back to where they're supposed to be, competing up in the top 10, top 15 like they were a couple of years ago. And so far this year, Josh Berry's performance with the 21 car has been met with some positive improvement from the organization. They were able to make the clash at Bowman Gray Stadium with a damaged race car. They ran well in the Daytona 500 until they got caught up in a wreck at the end of stage number 1. They had strong speed at Atlanta where they led a lot of laps until they were caught up in a late race incident. Then we went to Circuit of the Americas, where road course racing isn't really his forte, but he learned throughout that race. And then last week at Phoenix, he showed some tremendous strength the entire race weekend, not just qualifying and practice, but the whole race in general. He ran in the top 5, top 10 all day long, despite being kicked to the back early in the race because they had a pit problem. But he recovered from that with the alternative tires that they were running and was able to salvage a 4th place finish where he had been running for a majority of the race. It showed signs of improvement, and that run last weekend was no fluke. And his performance yesterday was no fluke either. Qualified inside the top 10 and had a really good car and ran there for a lot of the race. And then at times, strategy kicked in where other teams elected to take 2 tires. Other guys were electing to try to, stay out a couple of restarts versus being restart in the pack. Berry got kicked backwards, but then found his way back up towards the front in the final stage and was competing with the likes of Joey Logano, Denny Hamlin, Tyler Reddick up at the front of the field with a car that it gets alliance help from Team Penske. Then we had the caution come out late in the race with 26 laps to go when Noah Gragson blew right front tire. Everybody ducked onto pit road, and Josh Berry found himself leaving pit road inside the top 2 with the chance to battle for the win. And on that final restart, he had to duke it out with Daniel Suarez to try to clear him and get the lead and drive away. And after a couple laps of them racing side by side, good, hard, clean racing, Berry got the best of Suarez off of turn number 4 with about 18 laps to go and drove away and did not look back. That 21 car was flying out front, no matter how many times guys behind him were trying to maybe catch up to him. The clean air meant everything, and Josh Berry had that and was able to bring home his first career Cup Series win and only his 53rd start. It's pretty awesome seeing the Wood brothers. They've been in the sport since the beginning of NASCAR. They've meant so much to the sport. Of course, Eddie and Glenn Wood, they worked hard and built this race team up from the beginning and have had tremendous success winning crown jewel events. Of course, many years ago, we lost Glenn Wood, but Eddie Wood is still of course, Leonard Wood. We still have Leonard Wood today, and Eddie Wood is now becoming a big factor in the Wood brothers in 2025 nowadays. And it's so awesome seeing what the Wood brothers have done for some of these drivers, moments the last couple of years. They have been the site of these drivers' first career wins. Josh Berry got his first career win yesterday, of course. Harrison Burton won the night race at Daytona last year, his first career win. Ryan Blaney got his first career win with this team in 2017 at Pocono after frantically holding off Kevin Harvick. Of course, Trevor Bayne, in his second Cup start, opens up the 2011 season with the Wood brothers by winning the Daytona 500. And then Elliott Sadler won with them in 2001 with the Wood brothers, and it was Sadler's first career Cup Series win. The Wood brothers just seem to be the team that gives these drivers the opportunity to get their first career Cup Series win. And it's so iconic because no matter who you cheer for on a weekly basis, you can like the Hendrick cars and the Joe Gibbs guys, or you can hate them, or the Penske guys, but there's no doubt about it. Everybody in the garage area, drivers, teams, fans, everyone loves and respects the Wood brothers and what they have meant to the sport. And seeing them return to victory lane in a legit win that wasn't a drafting track is pretty iconic. And it's impressive to see the speed and the performance that they've brought so far this year. These guys, this might be the quickest turnaround of a race team that I've seen in quite some time. And now Josh Berry's going to be able to go to the playoffs and compete. And now they're locked in. They can just go out the rest of this regular season and try to accumulate more bonus points, maybe win some more races. I don't think this is the last time we see Josh Berry win in the Cup Series with the Wood brothers. I think there's a lot of potential for this team. This could be the sleeper team that we didn't see coming this year. Turn it around and possibly maybe make a run at it. I'm not saying make a run at the championship, saying this could be a team to look out for now that they officially are locked into the playoffs of the win. And I just got to tip my cap to Josh Berry. All the hard work and perseverance, being discovered by Dale Jr. to get to the Cup Series and now be a Cup Series winner, there's no greater feeling. So, and a big congratulations not just to Josh Berry, but to his crew chief, Miles Stanley. This is his first year as a crew chief, and so far the chemistry between these two, this driver and crew chief combo, they are gelling so far. Who knows what they could do throughout the rest of the season and going forward. So a big congratulations once again to Josh Berry, Miles Stanley, and the Wood Brothers 21 team on their impressive win yesterday. Number 2, top 5 day for 2 of the Trackhouse cars. Yesterday, Daniel Suarez and Ross Chastain came away with some much-needed top 5 results as Suarez finished in 2nd place and Ross Chastain finished in 5th place. Their other teammate, SVG, Shane Van Gisbergen, had tire problems throughout the rest of the day and was never really a factor. But Daniel Suarez, boy, did he need this result. I mean, you are talking about a guy that has had nothing but bad luck to start the season. Wrecking late in the Daytona 500, wrecking towards the end of the Atlanta race as the defending winner from that photo finish last year, wrecking at Circuit of the Americas when he was running top 10 a lot of the race. And last weekend at Phoenix, he had a car inside the top 10 and looked like he could finish there until he gets involved in a freak incident where Catherine Legg lost control of her car off of turn 2, and Suarez had nowhere to go and Dorner in the left side, taking him out of a possible top 5, top 10 run. But yesterday, Suarez was able to gain some track position as the race progressed and was able to find himself up in the top 5, top 10 throughout the rest of the race and contended towards the very end. It looked like he was going to be able to get the monkey off his back and get to victory lane and put behind these terrible first 4 races of the season. But unfortunately, Suarez said in his post-race interview, his car was meant for the long runs. They were not so good in the short runs. And when we restarted the race with about 20 laps to go, I knew that they were probably at a disadvantage compared to the rest of the competition who had some pretty good short run speed. If we had maybe a longer green flag stint at the end of the race, then maybe we would have been talking about Daniel Suarez winning. But at the end of the day, the short run speed wasn't there for him. But you can't blame his effort for trying at least. And a lot of people, I admit, it would have been cool seeing Daniel Suarez win because he's a good driver. He's a good guy. He doesn't deserve some of this bad luck he's had so far. But yesterday, at the end of the day, a second place finish is nothing to be upset about. And you take that and you move forward. Hopefully this result can give him some momentum and give the team momentum going forward to possibly get some wins. And then you got Ross Chastain, who's been kind of quiet to start the season, not really making too many aggressive decisions in races, but at the same time, we haven't really been seeing him compete up at the front and winning races like we saw him do in 2022 when he was new to Trackhouse Racing Team. But yesterday, he was able to take a two-tire strategy and gain some track position towards the end of the final stage and the beginning of the end of stage 2 and the beginning of the final stage, and he pretty much stayed up there the rest of the race. I think his car was merely meant for the long runs, like that short run speed that Daniel Suarez didn't have. I think that also affected Ross Chastain and his chances to try to win. But nonetheless, both those drivers, solid performances, and you take them and you move on to the next race. So, a nice job by both the 99 and the 1 team. Number 3, missed opportunities for some of our contenders. Yesterday, of course, Las Vegas, you cash in, you try to come up big, but at the end of the day, 3 drivers that we like to see on a consistent basis up at the front of the field competing for wins did not get the job done. 2 of the Hendrick cars, Kyle Larson and William Byron, and the Penske Ford of Ryan Blaney. Kicking it off with William Byron, of course, he was the only driver this year in the Chevy camp that has won a race, and that was the season opening Daytona 500. At times yesterday, being a guy that has won here before previous times, it looked like he had the car that could possibly be the car to beat, especially off of practice and qualifying. But obviously some off-strategy stuff, especially in the final stage where they elected to come down pit road after a wreck transpired in the backstretch, and they were thinking that if things had gone green the rest of the way, that they would have been able to make it the rest of the way on fuel, or other guys would have to save fuel, or possibly would have to pit because they weren't going to be able to make it. But that caution that came out late for Noah Gragson pretty much killed the 24's opportunity. Although he made some dicey moves on that final restart, he had a very rough battle with the one-car Ross Chastain, to the point where I think with just about as we saw the pass of the lead go on between Berry and Suarez, I think Chastain kind of pushed the 24 a little high through 3 and 4, and Byron lost his momentum and was never really able to catch up to those guys. If Byron had made quick work of the one car at the very end of the race, then he could have been the one that would have ripped victory from Berry or Suarez's heart. But at the end of the day, it was not meant to be. But a 4th place finish for the 24 team is still very impressive for a team that has run very well here in the past. Then we go to Kyle Larson, who I thought had the best car yesterday. He led the most laps. He won stage number 2. He's trying to get that first win of the season, considering how good he is at this track and being the defending winner of this race. I thought this race was pretty much in the palm of Kyle Larson's hands. But unfortunately, like William Byron, Larson pitted towards the middle part of that final stage, hoping that the race would go green from there on out, and they wouldn't have a yellow, and they'd probably be in contention to possibly win the race or finish with the top 3 if guys had to come to pit road and get their fuel. But that caution came out, and Larson couldn't really go anywhere on that final restart. In the end of the day, he ends up with a 9th place finish. Still a solid result, but you'd think about what could have been. And speaking about what could have been for Ryan Blaney, but the whole weekend, my goodness, talk about getting snake bit. Ryan Blaney had a rough start to the weekend on Saturday where he wrecked his primary car after he lost a tire and hit the outside wall with the back end of his car, forcing him and the team to forego qualifying and repair the car back in the garage area. They got the car repaired, and by the time we got to race day, Ryan Blaney from the get-go at the beginning of the race was beginning to pass guys, and it looked like he was the only car out of the entire field that could really pass guys on a legit basis instead of under green flag pit stop conditions and everything. He could legitimately pass guys on the racetrack. But unfortunately, we had a caution in the first part of the race where he got caught when the yellow came out for pitting, and he also got nabbed for speeding, and that put him 1 lap down and had to kind of play catch up at the beginning of stage number 2. Eventually, we had a caution that fell his way. He got his lap back, and he continued to try to fight his way back up to the field. When we got to the final stage, he was inside the top 10, and he was getting close to that top 5. He was about to become a factor for that race win. However, on the back straightaway with about 70 laps to go, Ryan Blaney was racing 4 wide in between Noah Gragson, Bubba Wallace, and Christopher Bell on the inside, who was going for 4 in a row. And I'm not sure if Bell kind of came up to the 12 car, it maybe affected the air, but Blaney then tried, at that moment, started coming up the track, and unfortunately the 4 of Noah Gragson was there, and Blaney came up and turned himself into the outside wall and pretty much ending his race yesterday. And it was a really frustrating race because he was frustrated in the radio with being caught under the yellow earlier in the race. That wreck that happened on the back straightaway, and he was pretty upset with Christopher Bell about that, although I don't think Bell did anything wrong, unless if there's something that I'm missing. But that wreck took Blaney out of the race. He collected a few other guys, Eric Jones, Bubba Wallace's good buddy, Austin Dillon, among others. Just a really rough weekend for Ryan Blaney. They pretty much crapped out this weekend and didn't hit the luck bank. So they got to try to find a way to get some of this luck off of their side because they are a championship caliber team and we know what they're capable of. Next weekend is possible redemption for him at Homestead because he came close to winning that race last year but got beat on the last lap when Tyler Reddick made that thrilling last lap pass through 3 and 4. Can Blaney redeem himself next weekend? We'll find out. But 3 strong contenders weren't able to be lucky at the very end. Number 4, attrition. We had so much attrition yesterday, from speeding penalties to loose wheels. Let's start first with the speeding penalties and get that out of the way, because a lot of teams were affected by some speeding penalties during the race yesterday, from the beginning to the middle all the way to the end. And some of those included guys like Ryan Blaney, who I mentioned, Denny Hamlin, who didn't really have a lot of luck on his side yesterday, even though he briefly got up in the top 5 late in the race. At the end of the day, it wasn't meant to be for him. Kyle Busch, who had some really good speed early in the race yesterday, he got caught for speeding on pit road. And after stage 1 concluded, we thought Chase Elliott was going to be the leader of the race to start stage 2, but unfortunately he got caught with a speeding penalty as well. And a lot of those guys lost their track position and pretty much had to play catch up throughout the rest of the race. But there were so many mistakes on pit road from speeding penalties and also loose wheels. What was that yesterday? What was wrong with these guys on pit road not getting these tires tightened properly with the lug nut and everything? The first incident happened during the first set of green flag pit stops in stage 1 when Chase Briscoe left pit road and he lost his tire. I think it was his right rear wheel that he lost in the process. If not, it was the left rear. One of the rear wheels came off, left pit road, and the wheel sat in the lower apron of turns 1 and 2, generating a caution. And what happens when you leave pit road and the wheel's not properly tightened and it leaves your car leaving as you leave pit road? 2-lap penalty and a 2-week suspension for the jackman and the tire changer. So Chase Briscoe is going to be out without his tire changer and his jackman for the next 2 races. Thankfully, though, Briscoe was able to recover to finish in 17th despite being 4 laps down. But he wasn't the only one that had problems. Beginning of stage number 2, Alex Bowman, who was running up at the front earlier, he had to come to pit road because a couple laps in, he felt like he had a loose wheel. Even though the wheel didn't come off, he had to come in and get it tightened, and it pretty much hurt his day, even though he recovered to finish in the top 10. But as I mentioned, Kyle Busch at the speeding penalty at the middle of the second stage, Kyle Busch, going down the back straightaway, loses his right rear wheel and generates a caution and takes him out of any chance he has to recover and try to salvage a solid result. A tough break for the Las Vegas native as he had to go back to the garage and work on the car. Just a lot of loose wheels yesterday, but one of the most puzzling loose wheel incidents that happened yesterday was on pit road with Christopher Bell, the man who was trying to win 4 in a row, and quite frankly, he did not have the car to do it yesterday, even though he got in the top 5 once. The car really didn't have the speed yesterday, especially considering how tight it was. When Christopher Bell was leaving his pit box, Adam Stevens rated in saying, "I don't think we got the left front tightened up, so you're going to have to pull into someone's pit box." And thus, Christopher Bell did. He pulled right into his teammate, Chase Briscoe's pit box, and they recognized what was going on, so they adjusted and tightened the left front wheel. I've never seen anything like this before, folks. A guy leaves pit road, is heard from his team that he might have a loose wheel, and pulls in to his teammate's pit box before he goes back on the racetrack. Now, I will say this. Stopping in someone else's pit box to change that, to tighten that tire, versus having to go on the racetrack and possibly risking losing that wheel and possibly generating a 2-lap penalty and a 2-week suspension for your tire changer and jackman, that was pretty smart of Adam Stevens to let Christopher Bell know, and Bell knew right away. He pulled into the pit box of the 19 team, they tightened the wheel, and he was able to continue on. His penalty was tail end of the longest line, which is what the rule book says. Like, if you change something out of your pit box, you're going to go to the back of the field. So they benefited from that, but I will say this. I think NASCAR will probably look into something about this going forward, thinking, okay, we know that you pulled into your teammate's pit box to tighten that wheel, but we might do something about that going forward. What could that be? I'm not sure, but I will admit, I've seen a lot of strange things in the sport, but that one has got to be up there. I mean, just a wild day of attrition with speeding penalties and loose wheels. And number 5, The racing product. Yesterday, I thought the racing in Las Vegas was really, really good. As we've started to get a little bit of couple races under our belt with this next-gen car at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, we've seen a lot of improvement when it comes to the racing product. A lot of side-by-side action, a lot of frantic battles, especially on a couple laps into a restart. We see them running 3 and 4 wide through the turns and on the straightaways. All the runs that these guys are getting, and not a lot of wrecks happening while that goes on. It's very encouraging and it's entertaining to see. But I will say, though, that sometimes when you get a guy behind another driver trying to catch up and pass him, the guy in front can react to what lane you're running on and cut you off, and it kind of creates a little bit of drag on the front of your car. With the dirty air that it's affecting the front, it can really put a hamper on your ability to try to catch the guy in front and pass him. It can be challenging. That's what happens when we go everywhere, but it happens especially on a mile-and-a-half track. But I thought yesterday the racing was very entertaining from start to finish. A lot of comers and goers. Of course, you had guys at the front of the field early on like a Logano, Byron, Larson, and even Elliott running up front, and then some of them get pinned in the middle of the pack, and we see newcomers surface like a Daniel Suarez, like a Chastain, like a Ryan Preece, even AJ Allmendinger. He ran top 10 a lot of the race yesterday. It was just some good racing, and it was a good way to end the tenure of former Las Vegas president Chris Powell. He announced this weekend that this would be his final weekend as the president of Las Vegas Motor Speedway. After 26 great years of service at the track, he is handing the reins over to someone else. So, Chris, we want to thank you for all that you've done for Las Vegas Motor Speedway and allowing NASCAR to come to Las Vegas all those years ago in 1998. And enjoy your retirement, and we will keep racing strong, and I know that you're going to be very proud of what's to come for the future of Las Vegas. But just some great racing yesterday at Las Vegas. Now, we're off to another mile-and-a-half track in Homestead Miami Speedway. It's not a playoff race this year. It might be down the road, but this year, it's coming back to the spring race that we had back in 2021. It's going to be very interesting to see these guys running all the way up against the wall, maybe lower on the apron of the racetrack, different grooves, and managing your tires. Last year, we saw a thrilling race all day long with the playoff contenders and a thrilling battle, which included a last lap pass at the very end, where Tyler Reddick got the best of Ryan Blaney and got the win to take him to the championship 4. Will we see that type of finish and racing next weekend? I certainly hope so. Who will come out on top, though? Will it be a Kyle Larson, a Tyler Reddick, or a Ryan Blaney looking for redemption for the one that got away last fall? Time will tell. All you got to do is tune in next week to find out. So I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week, and I hope you all had a wonderful St. Patrick's Day today. Subscribe, like, and congrats once again to Josh Berry and the Wood brothers on their first win of the season yesterday at Las Vegas. Have a great week, everybody. Let's go racing!